Recently, I visited with the great saxophonist and mentor Bruce Williams at the Juilliard School in New York City, where he teaches. Here's a chance to get some very valuable insights from a master. So if you like interviews with great players like this one, be sure to drop me one of these right now. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and leave us a comment below letting us know the key takeaway for you from this video. Hey man, it's great to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
Thanks for inviting me here.
No problem.
To Juilliard.
Yes.
I never thought I would be in Juilliard, really.
I didn't either until about 4 years ago. I used to teach at Bard College for about 12 years, a little while at Princeton, different festivals and stuff. I'm a teacher at Jazz House Kids, where a lot of students at Jazz House Kids have come here.
Okay.
So we get them from like junior high to high school, and it's like almost pre-professional. Then they come here to a real pre-professional program where these kids, a lot of them are like pros already.
Right, so it's like a finishing school.
A finishing school.
Yeah.
For me, one of the biggest things I think that gets overlooked is the importance of sound. The first thing you recognize is what someone sounds like. Do they have a good sound? Is the sound something I can use in my ensemble? Does it blend well? Is it in tune? What's their articulation? You know, those things come up, and some people just neglect them. You know, they want to get to the notes so fast. I want to play all these notes. I want to play all these notes just like Cannon or just like Tran or just like Jackie McLean or whomever, but they don't understand those sounds are signatures, you know, and it's important to develop a good sound.
What would be your best advice for like ways to go about doing that?
Well, long tones is like the thing everyone talks about, long tones, but listening to people with the sound you like and going for that. They always talk about, you know, you got to have this horn or that horn in order to get this sound, which I don't think is true. It can help, but I don't think it's true. But sometimes the mouthpieces are a little bit more important than the horn. Get a mouthpiece that's geared towards that kind of sound. If you want more of a high baffle thing or roll-off baffle, step baffle, bigger mouthpiece, meaning tip opening, or a mouthpiece that characteristically has a bright sound or maybe not. Those things are important to choose, you know, to decide which way you want to go. Sometimes people hear stuff in their heads and they can't produce it because their genetics, their makeup, their body, their build is not there. You can work on it and get there, but sometimes like the initial sound, I've had students that like, one in particular that had a sound that was more like Stan Getz. When I mentioned Stan Getz, he got offended. I'm like, what are you getting offended for? He's great, you know? If he had paid attention, I think he would have found other things in this sound, other, like I said, like an artist palette, all the different colors. He would have found these other colors if he just went that direction for a little while. I find some students, when I start messing with their throat, the pitch changes immediately. You know, when I start messing with their chin, or how tight they are in the corners, the pitch changes dramatically. And then all of a sudden, the tone changes. So to play with an open throat, because, you know, my teacher, Dr. Leroy Barton Jr., he would say, you're on Carnegie Hall stage. There's no microphone. You got an orchestra or a big band behind you. What are you going to do? You're just going to always run to the mic. There's no microphone. So you have to learn how to project, but also have a point on the sound so they can carry. So I kind of feel like for me playing, I can kind of see my sound. And if I'm playing like a concert hall, I almost always just walk around the stage and play a little bit to hear where I'm bouncing off, you know?
Okay.
And so if I'm playing lead alto, I might be sitting like this, but I might sit like this. You know, I might sit like this because wherever I'm feeling the sound is going, it's still lead, I'm still in the middle of the section.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, what are some of the things that you have been able to correct on, you know, multiple people like, you know, if you do this, it's going to help you open up that sound?
Syllables.
Yeah.
What you say, the shape of your oral cavity when you play. Most people that have like a thinner or choke sound, they say E. I say ah or O. Most of the time, I'm playing with an ah syllable. So your throat's like very U-shaped at the bottom. So I say, think about, I would say, look at a church doorway that's like upside down U. Now flip the U over, and that's the shape down here.
Okay.
You know, you get a very open sound. So every note, open notes, C sharp is ah. Every note, low B flat is ah. So that the horn has more of a homogeneous contour to it. You know, you don't have like a good high sound and a bad low sound or vice versa. You know, it's even. It takes a while sometimes because the pitch will start to go crazy. But once you get a handle on it, you understand that every note can be kind of operatic. You know, you can have a singer's quality.
Right. Yeah, because you mentioned that you're saying that when you start changing the throat, changing the jaw, and these things, then the pitch goes.
Right.
Yeah. So there's
Where they thought they were in tune, they're no longer in tune.
right.
You know.
And it's one of those things that's not always that when you make these sort of changes, it's the sort of thing you gotta spend some time with it before you're going to get the results.
Exactly. I also have students a lot lately have been asking about vibrato. And with vibrato, like my method's no different than a lot of people, is to use a metronome or just a particular tempo and pulsate quarter notes, eighth notes, quarter note triplets, eighth note triplets, 16th notes, and then blend them together. And then also listen to different cats' vibratos. Do a forensic investigation on vibrato. How does Train use vibrato? How and when did Bird or Jackie McLean or Phil Woods, how did they use vibrato? Yeah. So that like you can, now I like that for me. Okay, now what about that compared to Johnny Hodges or Arthur Blythe or Tab Smith? How did they use vibrato? Marshall Royal. So you can start to pick for yourself. And with the throat and vibrato, the combination of all that stuff, I get them to bend notes. To really like, don't play just right on the pitch, play under the pitch, above the pitch. Bend notes as far as you can, like, you know. So when you start to think about that, that's no different than what Johnny Hodges was doing. But now you start to learn where to slot your throat, your jaw, how much pressure, no pressure. And also to get the notes to have other colors, you know?
Yeah. And that, you know, I look at that as like that increasing your own flexibility.
Exactly. It's like trumpet players doing lip slurs or something. We can't really do it that way. But this will give you another kind of... I did a whole record with Steve Turre called Spirit Man. The whole record I played what I call soft jaw, where I wasn't right where I normally sit. I was a little under, just using the same technique. Because he has a thing about pitch. And I was using my Yanni Unlacquered 991, my same mouthpiece, 9 Van Doren S, here small chamber. I'll play a little softer in the melody and play the way I wanted to in the solos. You know? And it worked out. You know?
Yeah.
But if you don't understand how to tune without touching the mouthpiece, because you can't always, in the middle of a phrase, grab the mouthpiece. You know?
Right. And there's so many factors that are affecting, you know.
Right. And it's a trombone, so he's going to hear a certain way. He can get into places you can't.
Right. Yeah, they have that flexibility.
They have that flexibility. But we have it maybe the next closest because of our lips. People think the lead alto player is the best reader. I don't always think he's the best reader. I think he's maybe the second or third best reader in this section, if he's not the best reader. He just has to be really proficient, but knows how to interpret the music. Play with a sound that's, you know, strong, with conviction, the right articulation, so people will follow him. Those things are the first things I think you have to get a hold of. Articulation is key. And most of my students, I was Frank Foster's lead alto player for 15 years, and he was on me all the time, up to a point when he got me trained and just let me do my thing. But articulation, falls, scoops, vibrato, shorts and longs were his thing. When he wanted something short, it was very specific. So I try to teach that. I have a bunch of his lead alto charts from playing over the years, and I use them with my students. Students have to really get into tonguing, knowing how to tongue. get the front of the note right. You know, knowing how to cut notes off with the tongue and with the air. Lead alto players are pretty good at that.
Right.
Shaping phrases, you know, from all the different complexities of how you might phrase, where you put your tongue, how much tongue, what's legato, what's tenuto, what's staccato, you know, what's marcato, the difference marcato, staccato, legato, tenuto,
And
you
all
know, accents.
the mini variations.
The many
within that.
variations, you know.
Yeah. And that's so important because everyone else in the section should be basing their articulation, their phrasing on the leader.
Exactly.
So that it sounds like a section.
I mean, big band playing is interesting because we have the conductor, the band leader, but the guy really dictating the pace is the first trumpet player. After that, I think it's the first alto player. But I think it's like 1 and 1A. The trumpet, the drummer, 1 and 1A. Then I'm 2. But I'm right there with him because I'm like the junior trumpet player, because the saxophone section is really like 2 things. It's the strings of the big band, but the auxiliary brass. So when you have to articulate sharp, hard stuff, you have to do it because the drummer's matching the first trumpet, and if you're auxiliary brass, you have to tongue just like them. So if you don't have your articulation together, it sounds mushy.
Right.
Sounds like a bunch of flams.
Right. And yeah, and for if it's a shout chorus and the whole band is playing.
Yeah, 2D section, shout chorus has got to be popping.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I have all my students use the close A, no matter what level, because there's a bunch of articulation and there's no place to breathe. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so you get your tonguing together. I have them all use the basic stuff that everyone's using. You know, Ticket Rasher 158, close A 25 daily etudes, some Guy Lecour from Oliver Messiaen, you know, like the transcriptions that they did, you know, the patterns that he did. Some Marcel Mule. Actually, the cheapest book to get that will help you a lot is Rubank Selected Studies, but accompany that with Rubank Advanced Method 1 and 2. I mean, you can do a lot with just those 3 books.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But that's surprising to me to hear so much that classical.
I'm not trying to be a classical player. I'm just looking at it to get some things cleaned up.
Yeah.
You know, but you can also take the other route and really just transcribe and mimic. You know, just mimic how people phrase. You know, like the 2 greatest alto players for me, outside of Bird, were Jackie McLean and Cannonball. For 2 different reasons, but the same reason at the same time. They both articulate really well. People think I'm crazy with this analogy. I look at like Jackie McLean is like a U.S. military sword. It's going to cut you. It's going to be a little dirty, though. You know, but you're going to die. It's going to just cut you, you know. Cannonball is more like a samurai sword. It's going to go straight through. Either way, you're dead. Both of them are going to take you out. But the precision of the 2 swords or the work that they put into it is definite. There's no guesswork. There's no flim-flam, wishy-washiness about either of those players or even that thought of a cutting device. The job is going to get done. It's not dull. You know what I mean? So to me, the way they articulate is the best.
Right.
Now, Stitt I like too, but ultimately for our stylistic stuff, articulation, and what they brought to the music, to me, they're the 2 greatest outside of Bird. Jackie's articulation and his precision about playing with the drummer, to me, he's like the best drummer. He's not a drummer.
Right.
He's in the pocket so much.
The responsibility of soloists when it comes to time.
It's crucially important because you don't want to rely on the rhythm section so much. You want to have dialogue. If you can't phrase and have a rhythmic dialogue, it becomes boring. For me, I love a great bass player that can like be adventurous, but if not, they're just a great bass player holding it down. My conversation is with the piano player and the drummer. That's where I'm having the most fun because it's a percussion instrument, a harmonic instrument, and then just a percussion instrument.
Yeah.
So I like to feel like I'm in the band, not above the band. Well, I come from Washington, D.C., so I grew up in D.C. go-go bands and listening to that music, that hometown funk. You play in one of those bands for a week, your whole rhythm has changed. So for me, hearing pocket and groove, to me, swing is a groove, just like someone playing some Parliament. That's another groove.
Right.
So if you can't hear them as grooves and pocket and dance rhythms, now you're just trying to be lofty, in my opinion. You need to be able to connect with people as well as the band. You have to listen a lot. With listening, I tell young players a lot of times, maybe take one song and listen to it over and over again. Now this time, just listen to what the horn player's doing. Try your best to blank out. Just block it out. Now just what is the snare drum doing? Or just the drummer and the bass? Or just the snare drum and the piano?
Yeah.
See how much you can imagine just hearing one or two instruments at a time, and you realize that everyone's in sync.
Yeah. I had a teacher that had me do that a long time ago, and it's amazing how much you learn. Because a lot of times, if you're a bass player, you're focusing on the bass in music. You might not be hearing so many things that like the other instruments are doing. And I know saxophone players, like, oh, when is the saxophone playing? And you're focusing in on that, and you're not really learning to listen to all the other information that's happening.
That's right.
That as when you're playing live, you need that.
I mean, so much goes on the bandstand that if you're only thinking about yourself, you miss the point. I play quite a bit with Buster Williams and Lenny White. And let me tell you, no matter what piano player it is, you have to have your radar up. Otherwise, you'll get swallowed by rhythm or harmony. And then Buster's stretching the harmony, but it's still there. Like what you see on the paper and what you hear, it's the same thing, but it's very open. If you're not paying attention, you're going to miss a whole lot of stuff, and you won't be able to contribute as much. I look at the music as a guide.
Yeah.
It's not the music.
Sure.
Unless it's a transcription, it's really not the music, but then you still have to put life to it. The chart is just a guide. I've never played with someone like Buster and it's been the same from night to night. My years working with the World Saxophone Quartet, we could play the same thing. 4 nights during that week at different festivals. It's always different.
Yeah.
If you go out there trying to play what you played the night before, you will fail every time.
Right.
You have to listen.
Right.
You have to be a little bit more open. I mean, there's the thing about the language with whatever type of jazz, if it's straight ahead or trad jazz, funk, whatever, bebop. There's a lot of stuff that's the language of that genre, subgenre. But if you're not in tune to just being an open individual, you're not really playing the music, in my opinion. I play Yanagisawa saxophones, and I've been playing Yanagisawa since, they may want to correct me, but 99 or 2000. And I started off with a silver-plated 991. That one had the pearl up here, the flat pearl.
Right.
And I just love the saxophones. I stopped playing Selmers so long ago because I wanted to kind of just break away. The last 6 I had was incredible, but my Yanni, I heard something in it that was going to give me another thing, and I went with it, and I'm glad I did. My 6 was silver-plated and it was a strong horn. It was like new, but still just wasn't it. For me, Yanagisawa makes the best saxophones because to me it's like everything a 6 was, everything a Khan or a King was, but updated, cleaned up, smooth, and you can really breathe life into it. It's able to take whatever you give it.
Yeah.
A Mark 6 like mine was not able to do that. Like it was a great horn, but I felt like it was just not gonna handle the kind of way I was playing. I was playing way harder back then. Just didn't have that. This is a W01 SP silver plate. They said kind of like double silver plated because they left it in there twice as long. And it's post construction. My previous ones were ribbed, And I went with the post construction because the other one before this is bronze. Same horn, but bronze, lacquer keys, and a special neck, a solid silver neck. I didn't realize how free the horn was until I played a post construction horn. I forgot, like when I used to have King Super 20s, and a Con Chewberry tenor.
Because they were like that.
Yeah, but I felt like I could move the sound even more because like one of my sneaky, like pet loves is Arthur Blythe, and he played a Buscher post construction.
Yeah.
So I felt like I could get more juice out of the horn this way.
Yeah.
And I've had no issues with these instruments.
Yeah.
I love them. They're the best saxophones to me on the planet.
Yeah. The Regig's great, man. So you use that like all the time or just like sometimes?
Why wouldn't I need to?
Yeah.
I most of the time like thin out the rails and bring it in here, and then I play it. And if it's really still not right, I put my thumb into the reed a little bit, kind of crack the fibers and work on it. And then what ends up happening sometimes is in working on it, I may go this way. Make sure there's no burrs on the side of the thing.
Yeah, that's good.
And then if I have a window, like I would with sandpaper back in the day, I just take that out.
Right.
And then it rings again.
Yeah. Hey, that's something that Jason told me today that you write a lot on your reeds, and I see you wrote something on that reed.
Oh yeah, I got some other reeds and stuff written on them. I draw a little face. I'll put the date. Another face is wearing out. And this one I just wrote okay. Sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I just scribble like 2 lines so that I know, like if it's a dark or dim room, I can kind of see what's happening.
Right.